All right, we are going to read our next chapter, chapter 6, in the A to Z Mysteries. Dink stared at Mr. Linkletter. No answer, are you sure? Mr. Linkletter nodded. He looked puzzled. Perhaps he's resting and doesn't want to be disturbed. Can we go up and see? Ruth Rose smiled sweetly at Mr. Linkletter, and then we know for sure. Mr. Linkletter shook his head. We cannot disturb our guests, young miss. We have rules at the Shangri-La. Now, good day, and thank you. Ruth Rose opened her mouth. But, miss, good day, Mr. Linkletter said firmly again. Dink and the others walked toward the door. Something smells fishy, muttered Dink. Yeah, and I think it's that Linkletter guy. See how he tried to hide the register, then he turned his back? Maybe he didn't even call room 303. Maybe he was warning his partners in crime. What are you suggesting, Josh? Mavis asked. Maybe Mr. Linkletter is the kidnapper, Josh said. He was the last one to see Wallace Wallace. A man wearing a red cap tapped Dink on the shoulder. Excuse me, but I heard you talking to my boss, Mr. Linkletter. Maybe I can help you find Wallace Wallace. My kids love his books. Great, Dink said. Can you get us into his room? The man shook his head. No, but I know the maid who cleaned the third-floor rooms this morning. Maybe she noticed something. With his back to Mr. Linkletter, the man scribbled a few words on a pad and handed the page to Dink. Good luck, the man whispered and hurried away. What do you write? Josh asked. Outside, Dink said. They all shoved through the revolving doors. In front of the hotel, Dink looked at the piece of paper. The maid's name is Olivia Nugget. She lives in the Acorn Apartments, number 4. Livy Nugget? I know her, Ruth said. She used to be my babysitter. The Acorn is right around the corner on Oak Street, Dink said. Let's go. Soon all 4 were standing in front of Livy Nugget's door. She answered it with a baby in her arms. Another little kid held onto her leg and stared at Dink and the others. He had peanut butter all over his face and in his hair. Hi, the boy's mother said. I'm not buying any cookies, and I already get the Green Lawn Gazette. She was wearing a man's blue shirt and jeans. Her brown hair was stuck out from under a Yankees baseball cap. Livy, it's me, Ruth Rose said. Olivia stared at Ruth Rose, then broke a grin. Ruth Rose? You are so big. What are you up to these days? A man at the hotel gave us your name. What man? He was sort of old, wearing a red cap. Livy chuckled. Freddie, old? He's only 30, so why did he send you to see me? He told us that you cleaned the rooms on the 3rd floor this morning. Did you clean room 303? Livy Nugget shifted her baby onto her other arm. Randy, please stop pulling on Mommy's legs. Why don't you go finish your lunch? Randy ran back into the apartment. No, Livy said. Nobody slept in that room. The bed was still made this morning. The towels were still clean and the towels were still dry. Remember, because there were 2 rooms in a row that I didn't have to clean. Room 303 and 302. Room 302 actually had a do not disturb sign hanging on the doorknob, so I came home early, paid off the babysitter, and made our lunches. But Mr. Linkletter told us Wallace Wallace checked into room 303 last night. Ruth Rose said, not the Wallace Wallace. The mystery writer? My kid loves his books. Dink nodded. He was supposed to sign books at the Book Nook this morning, but he never showed up. We even saw his signature on the hotel register. Well, Wallace Wallace must have signed in, but he never slept in that room, Livy grinned, unless he's a ghost. I wonder if Mr. Linkletter could have made a mistake about the room number. Livy smiled at Mavis. You must not be from around here. Mr. Linkletter never makes mistakes. So Wallace Wallace signed in, but he didn't sleep in his room, said Dink. That means someone must have kidnapped him before he went to his room. Livy's eyes bugged out. Kidnapped? Geez, Mr. Linkletter will have a fit. She imitated his voice. We have rules about kidnappings at the Shangri-La. Everyone except Dink laughed. All he could think about was Wallace Wallace, his favorite author, kidnapped. Suddenly a crash came from inside the apartment. Oops, gotta run. Livy ran. Randy is playing bulldozer with his baby sister stroller again. I hope you find Wallace Wallace. My kid sister will die if he doesn't write another book. They walked slowly back to Main Street. Dink felt as though his brain was spinning around inside his head. Now he felt certain that Wallace Wallace must have been kidnapped. But who did it? And when? And where was Wallace Wallace being kept? Guys, I'm feeling very confused. Can we just sit somewhere and go over the facts again? Good idea, Josh said. I always think better when I'm eating. I'm feeling a little peckish too, Mavis said. I need a quiet cup of tea and a sandwich. Should we meet again after lunch? Ruth Rose looked at her watch. Let's meet at 2 o'clock. Where? Josh asked. Back at the hotel. Unless Maureen O'Higgins and Mr. Linkletter are both lying, he said. Wallace walked into the Shangri-La last night and never came out. Dun, dun, dun. All right, that was chapter 6. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow for chapter 7. Take care.